Okay, this should be working. Yeah, okay. So good morning. Dan, good morning. How are you doing? How are things? How's the game stuff coming along? Last time I saw, you were still on kind of experimental stuff. Terminally stuck on that stuff. Yeah, yeah. That's why I don't get very far on UI stuff because I get stuck on the visuals. Like I don't like them. Uh, and the CSS and the layout and stuff really frustrates me, and I feel it looks terrible. So I get stuck. Game development, same thing. So I get you, I get you. Um, Unless I can make it look the way I've got in my head, it frustrates me. So I get stuck on it for a very very long time. So if I ever was to build a video game, I'd need an artist to work with. So I get you. So I do apologize. My cough is still uh, um, present. I will try not to cough, uh, but if it does come through and it starts to irritate people, please let me know. I'm not in the. Uh, it's not clearing up, so we might be back to the doctor time soon. Hard to find an artist willing to work for free. Yeah, yeah. I kind of want the same thing for the UI UX of Liquid Sky. Um, that'd be awesome, but people don't want to do things for free. So, oops, sorry. Not surprisingly, not unsurprisingly, rather. It's fine. Okay, so on Monday, so I'm stuck and I need to create the art. Yeah, yeah. It's it's a balance. Okay, so there's an irony to what I'm working on right this second, in that sagas represent long running processes, right? And I keep getting pulled back into doing this stuff. So um, on Monday, I built this library. Right, we got the sagas working. I got the persistence working. I got the integration tests working. I was happy. Things were flowing. We had the triggers at a point where they were working fine, and it was great. And then I went to implement them. And I was like, okay, so we're going to put in communications, and we need sagas to live in here and here, because both of these things will trigger the events. So the service needs to run in both. Oh, so I could get around it because the application is where the sagas are going to live. And I could create the sagas in here and have them handled, but then if a command came in through a consumer, it would work. Um, but realistically, I want the option to have the service running in both systems at the same time, and one of them does the work. It doesn't matter which one does the work in this case, but one of them does the work. Uh, so that was interesting. So I'm like, well, hold on, I can't really proceed with that. Like my entire saga stuff is built around this concept of this service processing the triggers. So by adding the sagas, I'm going to add the service. But But for performance sake, that's scale out essentially. I mean, even if I create three instances of this service, I'm going to end up with three running Saga trigger services. So how do I handle that? So back to Sagas I go, and I'm like, I think I need a distributed lock. So I need some way of locking the Saga. So that when I go to fetch it, only one can fetch it at a time. This gives me a challenge because it means that I could potentially try obtain lock. If we've got one already, we just return false, right? We can't get it. So when we go to obtain a lock scope now, if we can't lock, we're going to throw an exception. So this might have to change, but ultimately, yeah. So I'm back to how much of my design am I changing? Now again, I'm doing this in an exploratory fashion. I'm not doing this from any sort of knowledge. I'm learning the lessons as I go, but I'm not trying to over-engineer something. However, this is one where if I don't engineer the basics of it, I'm going to end up with a mess, and I'm not going to know who has processed what when. I'm not going to know if I've double processed things. So I do need some sort of locking where that Saga cannot be fetched, cannot be retrieved from two places. Hi, Autism. How you doing? So if my receiver starts up and starts an instance of the trigger service, and the consumer starts up and starts an instance of a trigger service, again, the application code in here, right, is going to be where I define the Sagas. Can you explain what distributed lots are? I remember studying about lots in concurrency. Is it related? Yes. Yeah, so what I mean by distributed lots is I have this process that could be running, or in this case, this service that could be running in two hosted services, like consumers and receivers here. Now, they relate to the same data. As I'm thinking through this, I'm thinking of I might need to do some further categorization. But those services run independently, so I need to be able to lock access to a Saga while the other processes it. So the state is yeah. We cannot have the event for one Saga. For the event for one piece being processed at the same time as the other, because then if they have, they might change the state. Yeah, in this case, I'm writing a library for Sagas. So Sagas are long-running processes. They can represent long-running processes and kind of collate events and things over time and then trigger things, or an event could trigger some behavior. So in this case, in this scenario, I have two events, right? This fetch details will publish an event to Kafka, and this notifications will publish a command to service bus. These the blue and the green boxes represent the service boundaries, the actual logical service boundaries. And when this domain event publishes, it will need to pull the Saga out, or it will start the Saga if it doesn't exist. And when this domain event publishes, it will need to start the Saga, but they're the same Saga. both events together, once they've got both pieces of data, yeah, they will publish a further event. Yeah. Yeah, so they don't clash. Yeah. So I need this one. If these were both to try and retrieve the saga at the same time, one of them needs to hold on. Right? It needs to be blocked from doing so. So the try catch might not be the right way of doing this, the way I've got it so far in the Saga lock manager. Right? So basically, if I can't obtain a lock, I throw an exception. I probably want to return some sort of state or something like that, but we'll have to figure that out. Again, I'm trying to refine the library through using it. Yeah. Wait, this is so cool. I remember studying about this in my DB coursework. Yeah, this is stuff that is, yeah, concurrency control. Yeah. So you have a race condition potential where both domain events hit at the same time, both try and retrieve the saga, while which state gets saved, right? You don't want both of them to be able to retrieve the state of the saga and save it back, because they won't know about each other. Yeah. So saga is a coordinated saga pattern. Is it? Which one is it? This one. Sorry for the white screen. So choreography based and orchestration based, right? So what I'm doing here is more orchestration. So in this case, an event, something triggers, and this saga is created, and this saga will live on, and events will occur that will continually update the saga. So the it's kind of representing how do they actually put it? A saga is a sequence of local transactions. Each local transaction updates the database and publishes a message. So they're using it in this context, but the saga pattern overall is to represent a long-running event or a long-running process. So in this case, I need to basically this process is a change occurs in my system. Why does it say can't use local ACID transaction? Why does it say that? Different boundaries. In this case, these events are coming from different places, right? So the saga lives, and I have the same problem. The saga lives across. So it isn't necessarily in the same database calls. Yeah, so you can't use a distributed transaction to do this. So you've got these. So if the events occur out of sequence or you know, there's invalid events produced, the saga can track those things and coordinate those things. It's easy. Choreography, order events, customer. So credit limit, customer events channel, the aggregate of the order there. That's not really but that's representing it as a sequence of events that happen. This is coordinating with the orchestrating on the order ID, right? So customer service, you know, create order saga reply. This will handle that. So when you create the order, you might not have the customer, so you go to the customer service, you register that, you publish that domain event saying, hey, this customer was created. You update the order and say, yeah, we've got valid customer details, and you coordinate that information here. You might track when shipping is available. You might do all sorts of other things to coordinate events across the greater system. What I'm doing in Liquid Sky here right now, so if I had things that were happening, right now I don't have complicated domain events, but if I had things that were happening across multiple service boundaries, then I would have a potential for using sagas at this level. However, right now what I'm doing is I'm kind of in here, and my sagas are local sagas where I need events in the same context to be coordinated. So again, I have, hey, you need to send a notification to the user, and hey, here's the details of the change they made. Those two events are going to come in at different times because the details have to go and be produced and calculated, etc., and enriched, and the actual notification is based upon the change in the first place. Now I need to coordinate those two things so that when I have both pieces of information, I can now send a further event, without constantly asking the system, have you got this information? Have you got this information? Have you got this information? So I want it to be more reactive and align those events itself. So, yeah. Because if that system is unstable or becomes or isn't available at that point, you still want the event to occur to be recorded, so you can't hold the one. It's risky to hold on to the event. This happens a lot across the system where I could have events occur out of sequence. If one event has a reference to data that exists in another, or integration event, if one event has a reference to a piece of data that's in another event because it's in a separate service or whatever, when I hit a consolidating service like view, I don't know when that other event's going to come, if it's going to come, but I want the user to be able to see the data or whatever, and have the system be the data integrity of the system not be broken, right? So holding the event, I could hold it in an inbox and keep trying to process it, but yeah. So in this case, the fact that these two things run in separate actual services, yet they are in the same database, they're in the same application code, does give me some challenges. Yeah. So if you think about it, how do you hold that other event, right? You say, hey, are you going to get this data? What if that event doesn't come? Do you sit there indefinitely? Well, in this case, the Saga will actually be in an incomplete state, and I'll actually be able to tell that didn't happen. But yeah, so the Saga allows me to coordinate, and I can have this one will eventually represent the long running process where these events can happen over the course of a week. Sorry, I'm not that well versed with all of this, but I remember studying about transactions. I was giving the final state as if the transactions were in serial order to ensure consistency. So I did not study any of this at school, so forgive me if I do not align to a book definition. However, if you think about the Saga as kind of maintaining that transactional integrity across multiple events, multiple pieces, yeah, it will guarantee that once the transaction is valid and complete, it will provide that consistency. Yeah, but a database transaction is not the same here because this is a distributed component, right? So that I have these events coming in completely separate things. Morning, Rambling Geek. Thank you for the resub. Hope your day is starting off well. Let's have a good breakfast and hydrate. And, but it's weird to see me at ooh. But if you caught the sun, make sure you get the right after sun and stuff, so you can look after yourself and cool yourself down. What? Yeah, I had a weird realization yesterday. Yeah. Managed not to get sunburned so far. Nice. I'll keep lathering on that sunscreen. And it's warm here too, but I would imagine a heck of a lot warmer down there and more humid. The Discord is also engineered to handle a lot of concurrent users. Thank you for the follow, by the way. 35 today. Oof. Yeah, we're somewhere around there. Yeah. When you build any system that has many people doing many things at any time and you can't guarantee what they're doing, yeah, you've got to handle things. If you think when you go and type in Discord, if you and I hit enter at the same time, right? It's got to it doesn't have one write to that channel. It has to stack those events properly. You can get collisions there. So having them, queued off, or there's all sorts of techniques underneath for trying to handle what happens when things occur out of sequence or whatever. And when you did distributed system stuff, a lot of Liquid Sky has, and let me know if this is not really of interest, but in my application here, I have this acquire pattern, as I call it. It's a create if not exists, essentially. But as I go to track something, as I go to update tenant, no, update planning item is probably the better one. So, this acquire where I have to go and for data integrity, I do not want to risk losing this message that created this thing. So I create the necessary data in the database that makes this data correct and store this data. It's more important that I store this data, even if it's partially broken. I can always later put a status on it to indicate that it is broken. But because if these events don't ever appear in your system, if I grant the left domain event a lock and let it work, and then the right, wouldn't that work? Well, that's essentially what I'm going to do. And that's why I'm stuck on this. I don't want to do this. In this instance, I want the, because if two processes are trying to access the same saga at the same time, I don't want the one on the right, the one on the right to throw an exception. I'm trying to figure out how do I do that effectively. And is that the right thing to do? So a lot of this is with some help going back and forth with AI tools, because again, this is a challenge I haven't overcome yet, and it won't be the perfect solution first time. But yeah, is there a same time event? In what way? So yeah, I'm trying to figure out and also, by the way, testing this is going to be horrible. I'm gonna have to start up two processes. Yeah. If you are new to the stream, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, if you think I'm completely wrong and you have a better way of doing something, or you think that you can show me a clearer path, you're more than welcome to share things. I'm more than happy to learn new stuff. I don't know everything. This is I'm sharing this so that I can share what I do know and what I don't know. So yeah, in this instance, if I receive this event, like happy path, I receive this event, I start the saga, it saves the saga, it doesn't trigger the domain event because this is like, I don't have all my data. Then this event comes in and says, oh, you need to do this. And it gets a saga. It says, oh yeah, I've got everything I need now. Let's complete ourselves. So it completes itself, which publishes a domain event that then says, push the email notification. I remember reading in my coursework, I may be wrong, that the way of completing one transaction and then the other is less efficient. Um, so, I mean, if you're locking your system, absolutely. If you're working with databases, you do not want to lock unnecessarily, right? So if you're working with databases, you absolutely do not want long locks existing because your table writes, reads and writes could be badly affected by that. So transactions should be very short-lived. In this instance, I'm representing a long-running transaction. It's not a real it's not a transaction in any harm on the system. It's more multiple things have to happen and come together to be for the state of the system to be correct. Yeah. So yeah. So the way I designed this last night is basically the distributed Saga persistence wraps the persistence. So no matter what persistence method I use, I can insert this becomes a wrapper for that persistence. So you basically say, okay, it's going to be distributed. Therefore, take our persistence that we have and wrap it in distributed Saga persistence, which gave me some configuration challenges that I need to overcome here. But it does give me, I'm still stuck on this question of if I try to obtain a lock scope here. So the lock scope is the idea of it is essentially a using, right? Because in the usage of it, you'll see using scope, obtain lock scope, which means after it's finished this, it will dispose. Why is it called distributed? Because it's going to use a Redis or a cache, a distributed cache, to obtain that lock, because these will run. Many of these will run in terms of so let me have a look. In this communications instance, one will be running in receivers and one will be running in consumers. Right? These are those services. So they do not know about each other. They have no boundaries to it. They have no links to each other. Therefore, the Redis cache or the distributed cache, I'm going to use Redis, but is the only way they have any link, so it's distributed. So the responsibility is the distributed piece, right? So like everything else, the responsibility is distributed across the entire system. It's not any one piece does not do everything. That's how I would term it. So this fetch, by the way, occurs in every handler, right? So as the handler goes to fetch, what I could do see, the problem is I've nested that inside of here. And it's just C sharp. Yeah. Um, what I'm I'm trying to figure out how to use my words to explain where my brain's heading right this second. So what I'm thinking is, so the exact problem I was describing before, right? The delay, but I don't have an inbox for this. So if this can't process, deferred processing is not actually going to happen. So this code needs to understand. Oh, so there's two areas that use this, right? So the fetch, the handle is here, right? Now this one's interesting because the fetch is going to do, it's going to obtain a lock, fetch the saga then, which is going to return the instance of the saga. Or return null and then do that. No. Voltism. Me working on stream, if you find it useful to have a chat, to ask questions about what I'm doing, to explore things, if you want to do that, I am more than happy to do that, right? The stream is about me working through stuff and showing my experience developing, but it doesn't have to be about development. So don't ever feel that you have to let me get on with things. I'm not doing this to do co-working. I'm doing this to interact with community. So you're more than welcome to chat, to ask questions, to share opinions, and if you learn something from it, it's a bonus as well, right? So yeah. What I'm mulling over right now is the behavior of this. So in this event, in a regular handler, so I'm handling the event, I would lock the saga while I handle it. But if something came in at the same time and tried to retrieve the same saga, it would hit here, obtain a lock, and then call handle. Apex, hello, good morning. See, the biggest challenge I have here is I've got to be careful I don't over-engineer the out of this. Do people memorize design patterns, or does it just get ingrained with experience? I'd say it's a bit of a mix. I tend not to lean too heavily on design patterns, even though I use them in my day-to-day, but that's, again, the experience side of things. I try not to immediately try and figure out how code fits. I like to write the code, but some people do memorize them and know them, off by heart. The one thing I try and do is, as I'm using patterns, try not to name things after the patterns. Sometimes it's impossible, but yeah. I kind of want the behavior of a semaphore slim. Where are you? GitHub chat. Where are you? Here you go. Doc. I'm not sure where you came from. Oh, that's for Liquid Sky, that's why. An alert for today, but I'll be listening. No worries, Apex. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Let's have a chat. Using Redis, can I attain, not obtain, the same behavior as semaphore slim in that an action in one process has to pause while another completes? Also very similar. Wait and retry. That's what I'm trying to avoid. That's essentially what I'd have to do right this second, is something like this, right? I don't want to use exceptions to represent state. That feels incorrect. And I apologize for the cough again. So this is just moving that code up here rather than inside of here. I put it in persistence to try and make sure that it's a transparent layer, because how I persist this information is not necessarily the concern. Warm water with honey. Yeah. But I have to. Message. Oh. So I do inject the mediator here. So it's not necessarily incorrect. What it's saying there. So what that took me down then. Optimistic concurrency with version check. That's not a bad idea. DLQ. We're not DLQing things. No. Retry with exponential back off. DLQ. Optimistic concurrency with version check. Feel like that's missing a lot of what's going on there. Like, again, if this was to lock forever, So right now, the way the code sits, this would throw the exception out because the distributed Saga persistence would throw an exception here, which would bubble up. I don't want to put a bunch of repeated try-catch logic in here, though. That's not healthy. So I feel that this would live inside of the... This would live inside of here. So what we do is we do try... catch. So what I don't want to do sometimes writing something, even if it's not the cleanest, will help you get to the solution. So I'm going to try and write this in the cleanest possible way I can, not trying to overthink it, but also trying to achieve things. And then we'll figure out the testing aspect of this, because that's going to be a hard part as well. What's this? I want to use, if I'm going to use exceptions, I want to name them properly. It's not an invalid operation, so I can catch a specific exception. That will give me readability, and it will give me the ability that if anything else fails, I don't catch that exception and it throws up way past everything else, and I don't swallow it in the wrong way. What would this be? Block unavailable. Yeah. So we're going to do obtain lot scope here. We're going to do that. And then in here now, we're going to catch lock unavailable exception. We don't actually care about the specifics of it right this second. Yeah. Let's go and look at the... I'm not a big fan of throwing exceptions in that way. But right now, I think I'd rather... Sorry. I'd rather do it this way than not. Catch. Options monitor. Saga options. Options. Public int. maximum. Attempts. So in here, we're going to do for int attempt equals 0, attempt less than options dot current value dot maximum lock attempts. More consistent with how I write the code anyway. So if we actually attain the lock and return the saga, we will get there. That can still return null, by the way. It's fine for it to return null. This will do... the right spelling? Unattainable? That looks wrong. It feels like it's one T. Is it even a word? Unattainable. Impossible to attain. Yeah, that's about as accurate as I can be about that one. Same thing again. String message exception message. So at this point, what I'll do is block exceptions. There's no point creating a bunch of files for that. What we'll do is throw new block unattainable exception. Could not find Saga for orchestration. Could not. Like, if this throws any other exception, such as it can't access the database or whatever, that'll throw an exception outside of this anyway. So this won't catch it, this won't hit, so it'll just throw straight up anyway. So, which is by design. I don't want to do I don't want that to be just that, because then anything that goes wrong will behave as if it can't achieve the lock, and it'll send me down a path of looking for stuff that isn't actually the problem. So being very specific about the actual things that are happening will help me understand the system at debug time. So the only way this throws is if these number of attempts have been hit. So hold on, what does it suggest there? So it's saying so exponential back off. It does kind of make sense. I'm not opposed to that one. So I've put this using in here, by the way. A using will do a try finally. So even if this throws, if that lock was there, it will also remove it. So the finally will happen as part of the using. So essentially putting a using in there is wrapping code in a try finally. It will follow this, and finally will always execute regardless of an exception. That's why they put finally there. Yes. Morning trap. I may be solving for a problem that I won't see, but I need to handle it. So in this case, I'm dealing with my sagas, and the sagas are going to the same saga will be represented across different services at the same time. So different events are going to hit, and I cannot have the state changing on them. So I'm putting in right now. I'm trying to put in some back off. We'll learn what we don't know as we go along, right? That's the benefit. Attempt is less than match retries -1, i.e. this isn't the last try. Double the delay. So it'll do 100, 200. The is using locking in distributed systems, usually a smell. Such as a cast-like operation. So, okay. I'm willing to learn more. So the reason I'm doing this is I have my sagas. I went to use them the other day after Monday's stream. I realized that I'm going to basically have the service for the sagas because each of these two things is going to receive events that update that saga. So the code will live in the application piece, but the service will be running from both sides. So I could potentially receive the event in here and here that both refer to the same saga. I cannot, obviously, for consistency there, I cannot have them both pull the saga, update the saga, and write back their state at the same time, which is a risk. So the lock feels like the right way to achieve that, in that they'd basically get, stacked up behind each other so that the operations would happen, and the saga state would change at the right time. But I don't have the tools. I important guy. They're the same thing. Receiver is just a thin wrapper I put around the Kafka piece, and it allows me to differentiate between what is service bus and what is Kafka. It's a lock between two external pieces. So two services will be running, and they will receive events that will update the same saga. So this would be a lock held in Redis for right this second. So the saga persistence would basically try and obtain the lock. If I use the distributed piece, right, it would obtain the lock before it actually tried to fetch the saga. CRDT. What is CRDT? Conflict free Huh? Okay. It's not necessarily the single data resource here. It's the overall behavior needs to be coordinated, right? So this is getting a bit deeper into a realm I didn't expect to go today. So again, let me go here. So the green and the blue represent services. Now the saga is based off the events that are triggered by things that happen in each service, right? Right, but if the thing doing the behavior was local locking, then you wouldn't need distributed lock. Um, so a problem I'm trying to solve for, the events that are published when these things happen will be handled and the saga will define. So the saga, let me introduce it so you can see what I mean. Sagas. Also, I need to change the design of this a bit because this adds the behavior. I need the abstractions and stuff separately. So, and the generator stuff. Oh, I'm not producing the generators library. The generators is necessary. Oh, damn it. No, I gotta change the library design anyway. Yeah, that's not gonna work. This was broken. Yes. Um, if you have a service that is responsible for doing the work for instance, that service can manage the critical section. So the first path I went down was basically not even going for the saga lock, going for the who is responsible for processing it. So only one service gets the responsibility of processing it, right? And the distributed lock wouldn't be distributed lock, it'd be an ownership thing. Like, yeah, I got this one. I did go down that path. I can't remember when I switched to locks. Probably because there's two different actions here, right? There's the event reaction piece, which I do need to make sure that I do not, again, if both events happen at the same time, I don't want to write back the state of the saga and then overwrite a previous change because the state that I pulled out here is different. If the client's trying to read, modify, write, then you have to put the critical section protection in the client, which is usually where you see the distributed lots. Yeah. Right. Trying to visualize. So anyway, let me kind of go through what is. So there's two scenarios. There's the hey, data came in, right? So you've got two events happen in different services, in different completely separate parts. they both need to touch the same saga because they both are events that are coordinated by that saga. They're in the same context here. I'm not using distributed saga here in terms of mass transit. But then also there's the trigger. So the trigger should only happen on one service. It doesn't depending on the needs, you can sometimes just change the request to be cast-like. Otherwise, your lock idea is going to create a last write wins. Well, it won't retrieve the way I'm doing it. I'm retrieving the saga after the lock is obtained, so I would get the current state of the saga out. Is the idea that I'm trying to aim for here. But the secondary problem is the fact that I also trigger on these. So I have a service monitoring these and saying, hey, trigger this event. And it doesn't matter which service does it because they're both within the same bounds. But yeah. You use an update counter, for instance, and you send update with this new data if you still have version 5 and you loop. So separate out the two problems. The lock is required for fetching the saga and updating the current state of the saga. Or the lock as I'm designing it right now is required for that. And the second problem is who runs the actual trigger, right? So the distributed lock problem. We're not having a comp side background is most challenging for me. Hey, Thindle, welcome in. So how would I implement that in this context? Things are going good. I'm thanks to Apex and Trap, I'm getting a bit more comp sci education. Well, not even comp sci. And Dan, sorry, I didn't catch the look. My apologies. If I'm reading the prompts right, I missed those things. So here for the compare and swap, is that basically before I save, I go and fetch it again. To see what it is now, and then I mean that's comparing hmm. Also, like C# as a system.threading.interlocked. These things might not run in the same machine. They won't run in the same service. That there's two ways this is going to grow, by the way, right? So there could be many of these and many of these running, and they'll be running distributed, so they won't be on the same hardware necessarily. So the intent is these will scale as well, and they'll be, so there could be many. Cast-like behavior requires the whole of the data you care about can be automically written. If that is possible, then doing a cast-like behavior can be far better than distributed locked. I don't know, do low-level debug, similar to how few tests work, classic risk atomic behaviors. I'm not I'm pausing because I've got to figure out how to get my head around it, and my brain is figuring out. I'm trying to figure out how the concepts can apply and what do I need to know. So distributed lots versus CAS. Gotcha. Okay. I don't know. I'm happy. I'm happy for the education. Again, I only know what I know. I don't. There's problems I haven't met yet, which is again partially why I'm building what I'm building. Right, the way I'm building it. I could have had this system written as a website a year ago, and be a lot further along, right? But I'm doing this because this offers the opportunity to do some of this stuff in a non risky way. I'm not experimenting on production code. So let me kind of go through this. So the scenario that I'm looking at locks for is I have two events occurring. They both have to retrieve the saga. So this may retrieve the saga from database, from whatever storage, Mongo, SQL Server, wherever. It doesn't really matter where it's persisted. In memory, in memory is impossible for distributed, so that's fine. But they'll retrieve the saga. Their event will be handled, which may or may not change the state of the saga, may decide whether it's going to complete or not. Right? They save back the state to the database, and then based upon, again, the event being handled, it may trigger that it's complete and then fire another event off into Mediator. So if this and this come in at the same time, this changes the state and this changes the state, but they also rely upon, one of them happening first, or this is going to check, do I have everything I need? Yeah, I can complete. But that's only attainable by both events occurring, right? Then it matters that they both know the current state when they handle the event. So when they retrieve it, this handle event is what's important, right? So I retrieve the saga and then I handle it, right? So it's not about the persistence necessarily. It's more about what happens when I pull this out. No. Um, yeah, these events are going to occur. These events are occurring essentially in um, in memory in the individual system. So these will uh, these will occur when I save something to when I save this information, this data to the database. It will produce this event, and that event will trigger this, and this data will be available. But then when this saves, it will trigger the fact that notification is required and save that. Um, am I overthinking that? I have is the production of this domain event is created by the saving of the information that this holds. Doesn't matter if this domain event fires to tell me to do it. This won't carry. Will that always be the case? What I'm concerned of there is yes, in this specific scenario I'm talking about, when this event handles, it's going to check the data store for the information, or it can check the data store. It's not, the intent was that this would indicate that a notification was required, and this would then handle based upon that. But is that a design that I can say is going to be consistent? Hmm. Do you know you have distributed lock, make it atomic, but creating a single service that is responsible for changes? Use some techniques like conversion CAS. I'll figure out. Yeah. Uh, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm sorry. It's the lock seems natural because I'm just trying to I'm trying to understand for myself. I'm not trying to reason or justify. I'm just trying to understand for myself why because I've got two problems to solve. I'm just trying to reason why I went for the lock. The reason I went for the lock is because it's obtaining the current state of the saga that matters before I call handle. Saving it back is a side effect. I just need to step away for 1 minute. I'll be right back. I need to get my Stream Deck side out again. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Thank you, One Line, for, as always, for keeping up with shoutouts. There's a lot of smart people. I have the pleasure to see and stream. So, how do I figure this out now? So again, like this save of the saga is kind of secondary to the fact that the current state of the saga was correct at the point I handled this behavior. So it's not necessarily the storage of the saga that's it is the problem, but it's not the problem. It's the retrieval of the current state. That's the challenge. I'm trying to evaluate what I've done so far, like how much of it is wrong. And I put it in the stream title, but the irony of this being a long-running process is kind of amusing. I've got a saga about writing sagas. Oh, I'll be right back. Okay. Knock at the door. Sorry. Um, how do I achieve this? With the hindsight of uh reading, with the hindsight provided here, you know, it does feel that this could create more problems for me. I still have to handle the fact that, like, again, if that lock is unavailable, what do I do? If I can't attain a lock here, if that throws an exception, an option here would be, by the way, to try catch lock unavailable exception, and then what? Push it back? Because I could do mediator dot publish notification, right? And that would put it back into the mediator and then trigger this entire thing again. But that's an infinite loop. That's going to create its own problem. So if a lock gets stuck, if the cache gets stuck for whatever reason, it does create its own challenges. So I have to think my way through that problem as well. The amusing thing is, it wasn't the lock that I started on here. The lock is something that came after I really thought about, well, hold on, if I get them out of sequence. The actual reason I started coming back to this wasn't for that. It was for the fact that this service, the Saga trigger service, being that I will start this by default, right? This is basically because a saga could sit dormant, and these particular sagas that I'm working with right now aren't going to do this particular thing, but this will be required for the next piece, and I wanted to make sure I had the right tests in place for this, so that I don't have to keep coming back to this. This will check to see if this saga should trigger. So the long running version of this, right, that I haven't laid it out right, is there could be many of these that occur over the course of a week, and then it's triggered after a week and says, hey, you need to do your thing, and it will say, oh, I need to publish a notification. Let me publish a notification and either continue or complete, etc. Right. So this could potentially maintain a list of current notifications that have occurred since its last trigger, and then it will publish that as the domain event, and do that. So that's why I started down this path, is actually it was this service need that was the concern, as I can't have, if one's running here and one's running there in the same, because the boxes are the same here, right? It doesn't matter which service necessarily triggers the event, because it's going to be irrelevant, but it does matter about that. So a separate service would be useful for the triggering, but it won't help with the handling of the events. So what's that? Oh, Thinel, if you're still around, do you have a link to that talk you gave last night? I thought I saw you post something in the chat at the end So last night, Tyndall attended a user group meetup, the Tulsa um, user group meetup, .NET user group meetup, and gave a talk on um, uh, basically using repositories and units of work, etc., against the database to um, sorry, my brain's all over the place. And yeah, it was a good talk, and I was thankful I got to attend. Oh, maybe. Hello, how you doing? Sorry, props. How you doing? I brought you viewers. Oh, thank you. That's where they were. I knew I was missing something today. Welcome, welcome in all. Welcome in. I am. Uh, how did you get things done? Maybe get some progress. No worries. Um, all good. Um, I appreciate the compliment. Recruiter called. Oh joy. Hopefully productive on that one at least. So, welcome in. If you've not been here before, I am a .NET developer for my sins. I am currently working on some distributed systems problems with my larger project. Trying to figure out how to coordinate events across multiple services. If you have any thoughts, questions, opinions, you're more than welcome to share, as long as they're productive. We can have a conversation. That's my only rule. And yeah, thank you for the follow. So I have been working on. Let's see if it actually came up. I actually just started the bots before the stream. Uh, if only I knew what the URL was properly, that'd be impressive. Oh no 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 no! That's I'll explain that in a second. Uh, Continue without passkeys. I am not that good. So this is a template file. This is basically I'm using code generators. So these classes will be generated based upon the existence of other classes once I build. So these are kind of templated out, and then I run them through templating. So they actually generate these classes. So yeah, it's been a long time since I worked without syntax highlighting. Oh yeah. So I am working on Project Liquid Sky. Project Liquid Sky is a project management and planning platform built for me because I don't like other tools. The idea being that project management and planning is done outside of development before development happens, and then development is its own thing managed by tasking out against requirements that are built out by product. So tasks over here are handled right now in Kanban boards. So yeah, I have opinions. I'm trying to avoid the words I'm trying to rewrite I'm trying to do what I like. Uh, it is not a Jira competitor. It is it is the things that I find wrong with Jira as the tool that I use currently. Um, uh, am I saying? So it is a large system at this point in terms of its footprint, distributed across many services, many databases, many technologies. So overall, it is basically a technology playground for me. And right now, um, right now, what I'm doing is I'm trying to understand some new to me concepts, old concepts, um, and see how they apply for the problem that I'm trying to solve right this second, which is the idea that these processes need to coordinate events that occur across the system. And I don't know which service will necessarily process which event ahead of time. I should write a Trello clone and head to load the Trello board. Yeah, if I was after building a Trello clone, um, I would I would have had that done a long time ago, even with my ability to uh, procrastinate. Um, welcome in again, Ivanhoe, RJ, hello, Neogata. I've been a .NET developer for 20 plus years. Um, um, I love I love the .NET ecosystem. I love the tooling available to me. I'm very productive in it. Good or bad, right or wrong. It is my happy place. Um, so yeah. Um, what I'm currently working on is basically when you, as a product manager, a CEO, a VP, or whatever you are, um, what I want to provide is the ability for you to say, hey, I care about being told when certain things change in the system. Like I care about a planning item sitting there for a month, or sorry, in that case, not changing without any changes. I care about a planning item being assigned to a different project. Um, where you building this web app in .NET? All the backend is .NET. The client is Angular. So client, Angular client, and everything to the right is .NET. So yeah. I'm not using Blazor. Um, uh, Blazor is a great framework. It has evolved a lot. It's just not something I'm comfortable, and I wanted to build this quickly. I'm more comfortable with Angular. Uh, eh, I mean, everything's a little yucky depending on how you look at it, right? It's the tool sets achieve different things in different ways. They have different opinions on how stuff is built, and sometimes it will work for you. It will not work for uh, someone else. So for me, when I came to do this, like the actual client here doesn't matter. The API gateway is represents everything. So GraphQL, all the WebSocket stuff goes through here. Everything goes through the gateway. So the actual client doesn't actually matter. But you know, other people love Blazor and are really good at Blazor and can do great things with it. I just have not. It hasn't clicked yet for me. And I don't do well with the whole C sharp on the front end thing. It breaks my brain a little bit. So for me, I like the separation of different language. Yeah. Fellow veteran, been working with .NET. Nice, nice. That's cool. It's good to see other people of long careers uh, hanging out on Twitch and talking about this stuff. Yeah. And Corey, welcome in. Good morning. If you're not aware, it's the way that also streams. It's another .NET developer. If you helps if you shout out the right thing, right? Streams generally on Saturdays. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, whatever tool you can be productive with and comfortable working in is the one that matters. And in answer to the question, though, this is I'm using Obsidian because I can collect all my notes and ideas and thoughts together, and use it as a general scratch pad. But I'm using Excalidraw embedded in Obsidian for this. So this is Excalidraw embedded. Hello, Tails. So yeah. Sorry. I was talking about your diagrams yesterday and using my stream as a point of reference. Ooh. That's a scary idea. So yeah, this is Liquid Sky as it smells. So what I've been working on the last couple of weeks is a concept of Sagas. Obsidian is a great tool. I'm always finding new plugins to use. I have to add that to the list. Nice. Yeah, I like having it all in one place, so I can do diagrams and I can do all my notes, and you can use mermaid diagrams and stuff in Obsidian, and yeah, it's awesome. So call it over engineering, call it whatever you want. It is a happy place for me. I use a lot of technology in here. I'm using Mediator for handling my API requests and my incoming stuff. So I can send commands internally into my components. I'm using Kafka for distributing data across the system. I'm using Mass Transit and RabbitMQ for sending commands and publishing large-scale domain events. So a lot of this works out as a product that is now at a size that I'm seeing real problems that I would face in any real system, right? I'm getting to the point where I can figure out scaling challenges. I can figure out distribution challenges and performance problems, etc. It's designed very much in a way that I wanted to develop an application at a previous job, and I just didn't have the chance to implement the vision as I had it. You know, whether we call these microservices or components or whatever, it doesn't matter. These are independent. They store their own data. They have their own databases. The behavior for planning and understanding what matters to planning data is in here. The tasks, etc., they're all broken out into their own pieces, and then the view consolidates that data back together. And what I'm working on right now is the notifications aspect. So when something changes, I want to subscribe to being able to see that changed. So I have the mechanisms in place to say, okay, I care about the status changing. So if I change the status, a change is calculated in here and publishes out as a change event. The notification system says, oh, I saw a change event. Does anyone subscribe to this thing? And do they subscribe to this change? Yeah, they do. Okay, let's send a notification. So I send a notification. The idea being that the act of saying, yes, I need to notify someone is distinct from how you notify them. So breaking up those lines. And what I'm facing right now is the information I need to compile, that's the right word, compile, an actual meaningful communication to that user isn't in that notification. It is also being processed and produced. So I need to consolidate those two things together to say, yep, I've got enough information, I'm good, let's send it. Also, I might say that notification isn't due for another week. I want to collect all the things that change that I care about that entity over the course of a week. So, but the communications is the area I'm going to do that. So I'm introducing the concept of a saga at the mediator level. And the reason I'm doing that is because these events will be processed. So I'll store the data and publish these domain events internally that will then get picked up. So what we were talking about at the beginning, or for the last hour or so, was the challenge I've got with using distributed locks. Luckily, Trap came in before I actually implemented this, pushed it, and did all these things. But it's given me some pause for thought, right? Or yes, pause for thought. In that I am kind of contemplating the benefits and the disadvantages to using a lock here, whereas there might be a better pattern. I'm just not sure how the better pattern is achieved right this second. Also, I need to generate... If I don't generate the generator library, then the Sagas won't get generated. I just need to remember to do that. As always, though, if you have any thoughts, questions, opinions on what I'm doing, if you feel that I'm completely wrong, I am happy to talk about it if you can help me understand why I am wrong. Because I want to learn, I want to grow. Like I said, this system as it stands is giving me the chance to actually tackle some problems that, on a regular project, a side project, you would not get the opportunity to do without contrived examples. So one of the things I typed in before is into Claude just to help me understand was distributed locks versus cast coordination, right? And I have Claude set up that it will give me analogies. So it says, think of distributed locks like having one person hold the microphone at a meeting. Only they can speak, but if they walk away with it, the meeting stops. Cast systems are more like a collaborative document where everyone can suggest edits, but conflicts are resolved automatically without blocking anyone. What specific type of events are you trying to coordinate, right? So it gave me a good analogy there. Enough for me to get my brain a little bit further around that one. So again, what I've got to kind of figure out is, sorry, I've been struggling from a cough for the past week, or almost week now. Yeah, what I'm trying to level is, how do I figure out the right path here? Because I understand enough about the cast thing to understand, and hello Mars, good morning, to know that it I get the concept. I'm just not sure how it, again, it's the retrieval of the current state of the saga that matters to me, not the saving of the state after I've changed it. Because if the state is changed by something else, this handle will be based upon the wrong information. But saying that, essentially, I need all of this to be controlled so that I do not It's a challenge. And the thing is, with this, it's going to be really hard to debug um, without some significant effort on logging and telemetry later. Like, I'm not even going to try and make that pass right this second. I'm just saying it will be the state being manipulated across multiple services will create me a challenge later on. Does this solve? I have no idea what's going on. That makes two of us. See, that doesn't solve this problem. It still doesn't solve this problem. Crap. It really doesn't solve that problem because this Saga trigger service is going to retrieve the Sagas and fire them regardless. It's not going to actually lock them in any way, shape, or form here. So this may actually be for nothing. But again, I'm benefiting from the fact that I can do this without any fear of the quick answer. I don't have to worry about you know, a boss breathing down my neck like, where are we with this? Now, to some extent, I really need to start treating my project like that, where I do have some deadlines, because otherwise I'm never going to finish it. It's going to be the forever running process. Like, I would have loved to have this into a place where people could use this summer. But I do feel that this notifications piece is a benefit. You see, to get on with it, mate. It's funny, I was watching Thindle's talk last night, um, um, and uh, um, afterwards we kind of stayed behind and had a chat, and it was as we were chatting that I wrote most of this code, because I was just finding it good to be in an environment of just talking and chattering. I felt quite productive. Being said, it seems like it might be a little bit for naught. I have nothing against waffles. Waffles. I prefer silence. I don't think I have any preference there if I love what I'm doing. If I get stuck like this, having the ability to talk is like, the stream is beneficial in that respect, because I'm rubber ducking essentially, because I could talk through my ideas. That's where I feel that the stream helps me be very, at times, be very productive. Trying to validate whether I'm stuck on the lock solution and I can't see the wood for the trees. But in the same, I'm trying to understand how I apply any opposite, any alternative piece. This, I feel, is a whole separate problem. Um, Attached to this stream, by the way, is I do have a Discord. If you are interested in hanging out, if you want to chat, have share projects, etc., more than happy to chat about stuff. I also do regularly go in the voice chat there. We do hang out from time to time, talk about a variety of topics. No guarantees that what you want to talk about is covered, but you know, the option is there, and you're more than welcome to come and join in any of the chats. I'm taking a C# course on Udemy, so I might be helpful at some point. Put all my coursework into a project and drop to interview projects. Nice. So we'll check it out. That was some great timing there, Miles. But yeah, I think it's always good to grow and share. Okay, but unfortunately, I have a day job, and they don't sadly pay me to sit and do this. I would love to do this for a living, by the way. It would, I think I would do pretty good if I could stream this. C# and Lua. Lua scripting is something that fascinated me from the first moment I saw it. Like the idea of running, of being able to script out behavior. And I've never really implemented anything like it. But yesterday, Stony, again, is a streamer. Stony actually implemented the ability to write chat commands in C# scripts into his bot, so you could extend the bot without essentially without restarting, I suppose, in theory, but without rebuilding everything. You can just put a script into a directory and have it being used as the command, and that is the sort of thing that I find fascinating. The ability to extend systems and stuff through scripting. So I can see that. But yeah, unfortunately, I have to go and solve a different set of problems in a very different way. But we're going to go raid Anna. Anna is a .NET dev as well. She's been working on a writer's platform for a while, but is currently working on learning Maui, it looks like. Yeah, I'm going to go off and go do some AWS services stuff now. That's apparently my day. So I will be back on Friday. Hopefully I'll have made some more progress in this. I'm going to do some more research and see what other options I have available to me and try and understand more about the problem I'm actually trying to solve. Dig a little deeper there so that I can be more clear. But Apex and Trap, if you are still around, thank you very much for the assistance. I do appreciate the opportunity to talk and dig deeper there. It's given me enough to not rush ahead and do this. So I do very much appreciate it. So we're going to go raid Anna. I will be back on Friday. This should be the last week where I have any days off for at least 2 more weeks. So we'll go back to our 5 days a week streams. But thank you very much. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. And I will see you around. Bye all. And I still need my stream deck. It's got to be sorted. See you later.